And we are live. So as expected, there's nobody watching. But if you're watching this back, sometimes we do a weekly show. It's very infrequent these days, hence the title, Not So Weekly. But I kind of thought I've got a bit of time, and if there's people around, then we can have a little chat and a little catch up. There's quite a lot going on at the moment, so you've got quite a lot of tournaments and news. I think the whole landscape of 40k has massively changed over the last sort of month and a half after the FAQ, with a lot of big tournaments sort of coming up soon. Thought it was a good opportunity to kind of catch up and have a chat about it. So if anyone's around, then it'd be a good time to have a little chat. And if you're watching this back, I'll probably just talk nonsense for a little bit, and hopefully it works out. So I'm just going to share this a few different places and see if there's anybody around. I'm getting a bit of buffering anyway. The live stream's not showing great, which is not the best start, but there we go. But never mind. Hopefully everyone's well. I said, yeah, I'm just getting an awful lot of buffed in, so I don't know what it's like over the other side. If there's anyone in here, it shows I've got a couple of people watching. If you chuck it in the comments if the audio and the visual is looking okay. It looks like the visual's not great. It looks like I'm kind of not moving. So if that's the case, then let us know. If you can hear me okay, then again, let us know. But yeah, we'll hang about for a bit anyway. We'll just hang about and see and kind of see what happens. I've got, as I said, a little bit of time. I've got my cup of tea, and we'll just see what happens. See what happens. The ramblings of a madman. But yeah, if you're watching this back, as I said, if you've never seen this before and you've kind of stumbled upon it, what we have always done is every Thursday done a live show. And the live show is basically to catch up on any news, rumours, you name it, we'll kind of talk about it. There's normally quite a lot of banter, and there's quite a lot of to and fro and chatting, asking questions and all sorts of other nonsense going on. But it's generally a pretty good fun hour and a half, where we just kind of talk around what's kind of currently happening, predominantly in 40k, but we'll talk about anything if people want to talk about it. That's kind of the premise of the show. It always used to be weekly, but just due to kind of work and family commitments recently, it's been very, very sporadic. So apologies if you're kind of a long time listener or watcher of the show. I am doing best, and hopefully I can get to the stage where we are getting a little bit more regular. The other problem I have is I have pretty diabolical internet, which at times can be wonderful and at other times can be pretty sporadically terrible. And due to that quite often scuppers the live show, which it might well be doing tonight, because as I said, the stream quality is showing pretty poor. Gonna have a little look on myself and see what it's kind of looking like. But of course, the internet doesn't want to work on my phone, which is pretty. Just sort of sums it up, I suppose. So yeah, we'll keep things going for now and see whether things stabilise. I'm not showing a dropout at the moment. There's a couple of people watching. My kind of chat. Get double talk. Yeah, I'm not even seeing my chat box at the moment. So yeah, God knows. God knows what's happening. all gone very odd. Just shows. Go off these things for a little while and everything changes. This dialogue for my chat is not the same as it was the last time I was on, which is always interesting. Let me refresh this page and see whether it gets any better. But you should hopefully still be hearing me, fingers crossed. Refresh it and see whether it works. In fact, that working now. Still, they've got 5 people watching according to this, but I absolutely cannot see any chat at all. Well, so there's chat going on because I can see it on my phone, but for some reason my server is not giving me any chat options, which is great. Oh dear. Let me carry on playing. But I can see from my chat, Julian's here. Of course he is. Hello, you legend. Hello, Ian. Lowell Hart. I think that is. Sorry if I'm destroying your name, but hello. Is here. Of course he is. Hello, you legend. Hello, Ian. Double chat there. Oh, okay. Okay, fine. So let's turn that volume down. Let's let that play. See whether that works at all. You see it right. Okay. Okay, so I don't know whether that's working still. Everything seems to have frozen up a little bit again. Of course. Free City. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let me just try refreshing. Okay, hopefully it's back. There's normally a little bit of a hesitation. Fingers crossed you're starting to see me again. Video is a bit slow. You're back better. Okay. See. Would it be weird to get a Tyranid tattoo? No, not at all. I mean, if you think that a Tyranid, kind of the whole thing around Tyranids is very much based off the Aliens Geiger-esque kind of feel, and you know that Geiger almost art is looks really cool. That almost like mecha tendroid type kind of art. So I think actually you could make a Tyranid style tattoo look really kind of cool. Really cool. I mean, like anything, I think the thing with tattoos, and you love them, hate them, not everybody's into them, but if you get the right person who's good at what they do and they kind of lock into your vision, I think you can make some great stuff. So yeah, I'd go for it. All working at the moment. Well, it seems to be buffering again over there. I'm going to keep talking, guys, so hopefully you can hear me. Apologies if the picture is diabolical. Yeah, it's not great. I might try and just what I'm going to do is I'm going to come out of my server. I'm going to work straight through just through my streaming device, so my computer's not stretched, and I will look at working just straight through my phone. So there might be a slight delay. Right, George? So yeah, so there's a bit of a delay. I apologise, and if I keep looking down, it's because I'm looking at my phone and looking at your comments on here, because that looks like that might be the technology. But hopefully, if you can hear me, that's a start. And the guys that you're just rocking in now. James, I don't know whether I gave you a hello, but hi James. Thanks for dropping by. Yeah, so real kind of apologies that the show has been pretty much at a standstill for the last sort of month and a half. Just been really, really, really busy in real life, and trying to fit everything in has been a massive, massive challenge. So, kind of apologies to you guys that are here so often. Hi, James, other James. So yeah, so apologies to you guys that kind of show up and are always here. You know, the guys in the chat at the moment, you're absolute legends. Hi, Craig. Pretty much, I only need to switch this live stream on, and you guys are here. So that's amazing. So thank you very much. Can't appreciate it enough, because it's just rambling to a madman, to be honest. And how you kind of keep coming back for more, I don't know. Maybe there's absolutely nothing on telly at the moment, and that's kind of fair enough. But what I thought I would do today is kind of just, one, let you know what's kind of going on sort of on the channel and what I'm kind of doing at the moment, because I have been, even though I've not been necessarily really active on YouTube, I've been very, very active on Instagram, but I've also been doing an awful lot behind the scenes. And I've also been working really heavily on Twisted Dice, my other channel. We're really trying to put in an awful lot of content over there, and really kind of working on those battle reports. And we'll have another battle report that I'm in against Necrons tomorrow. That goes up live tomorrow. Really good game, very, very close, a lot of fun, definitely one to watch. It's a full dice by dice, so you'll see the whole lot, banter galore, and it's a lot of fun. Fabius's Necrons, first time they've been on the channel, a beautiful gold Necron army with a lovely sort of bright blue. They look stunning. And it's a really good game. So definitely, you know, if you're into your battle reports, 100% recommend that. That will drop tomorrow. I've got some more advice from the Hive Mind. So you guys that have been asking for more tactical advice, that's coming. That kind of fell behind a little bit because I'd already made about 3 or 4 episodes before the FAQ, and majority of them, when I watched them back, were just totally irrelevant with the new FAQ. So I had to kind of bin them all off and start from scratch, which is obviously massively frustrating. There's no point in me giving you out-of-date advice, because that would be pointless. So that took me back a little bit as well. So yeah, it's been mega busy behind the scenes, but to you guys that are kind of regular watchers and that kind of follow, really sorry. I feel terrible because I owe you guys the content and it's just not been out. But there you go. We'll have a quick look at the chat. What's going on? Getting my second Hive Tyrant done right now. Great. Yeah, can't go wrong with the Hive Tyrant. Still an awesome unit. You know, I think 3 Hive Tyrants, which is what you obviously is the maximum now, in matched organised play, I think is great. And in some ways, to be honest, I much prefer it, because 3 Hive Tyrants is still a nice slab of your points, but it gives you loads of variety then for the rest of your points. So it means you can play around with loads of other cool units. You can use very dynamic, different tactical play. You're not working around one kind of play style and one kind of format, which I think is cool, you know. So I'm all for that, and you know, 2 Hive Tyrants, wicked. So that's great. What have we got here? Ian is trying to finish his Beast Claw Raiders for the London GT. Well, hopefully Ian will catch up and say hello. But sounds cool. Sounds cool. I mean, Beast I haven't played AOS for a long time, but I remember like Beast Claw Riders were scary good, and I really liked them because they're kind of you know, just charge at someone, literally headlong into the fire, and if you stick, then you wipe them out. If you don't, they wipe you out, which I think is really kind of fun. You know, it's great. Like, you know, just chuck everything at them and see how you get on. So I love that style, and I think that, you know, there's nothing cooler than these great big woolly mammoths with ogres on top. I mean, that's epically cool. So yeah, good luck, and definitely let's catch up and say hello. What else? So George is having a league game tomorrow versus Ultramarines 2K. Hope my Kronos can shoot them down. Yeah, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. The big thing with Ultramarines is, yes, they can back off and then shoot you, but they're -1, so they're going to get a lot less through. You know, they're going to have Guillimans, so they're going to be re-rolling, but still, lock them up, cause them grief. You know, if they've got Psychers, obviously Kronos is going to be great. They don't have very much effective stuff that doesn't need line of sight, where I'm guessing if you're running Kronos, you're probably running Hive Guard or Biovores or a bit of both. So you can play that game, you can, you know, hide your good stuff and then just chip away at them, get in their face, be an irritation. You know, their Ultramarines are not the force they once were. They've had a little bit of a resurgence because of the gun line thing, because it's harder to get at them quickly. But they're definitely not the force they were. So yeah, I've got faith you can do it. Do it for the High Fleet. Kronos for the win. I'm all over that. What have we got here? Oh, thanks very much, Ian. Appreciate that. What have you got? Oh, so he's asking, Amir's asking what's in George's list, I think. Ian, I'll be running 3 Thunder Tusks. That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, I mean, I've played them back in the day. If I say back in the day, we're only talking 2 years ago when I was playing my Skyer, Clan Skyer Bomb, loads of mortal wounds, really disgustingly brutal and broken. I remember getting charged by at least 2 of those, and it hurt a lot. They are mega damage. Julian, where's the best place to find London players? Well, London's got a pretty good base for players, to be honest. I mean, a lot of the guys from kind of my, I'm going to say secret club. It's not really a secret club, but basically my kind of player club that is just a combination of players from all over the country, really, that we all get together and play tournaments and get drunk most of the time. There's a big group of them that have come from London. They always used to play in the Heights Club. Don't know exactly where that is. You can probably look it up. So that was a club that used to be very popular with them. I'm not sure whether they play that much there, but I'd be surprised if you can't, you know, find quite a few places to play in London. South of London, there's Warboar shop. It's in Bromley, which is kind of outskirts of London. When I used to work in Bromley, I used to play there, and there was quite a good little player base there, and some really good players and some good hobbyists. So yeah, if you could check out Warboar if you're kind of around that area, you should be able to find quite a bit around London. There's definitely a lot going on, you know, and yeah, I mean, hit me up. You know, send me an email or something, as always, and I'll see if I can hook you up with some players. Always happy to help. Can't promise anything, but I can see. Let's have a little look. What are the questions? And I'm doing 2 walking tyrants, venom cannons, rending claws, and 1 flying with twin link devourers. That's cool. That's very cool. I like the venom cannon. Pretty reliable on a Hive Tyrant. Interesting. Be very interested to see how that works. How you get on with it. Definitely. Craig's been working on some Tesla Immortals. Decent unit. Solid. I am up to 16 Mournfangs. Ian's saying, wow. Okay. Nice. George, so his list is 2 Hive Tyrants, 1 Exocrine, 1 Tyrannofex, 1 Neurophrope, 4 Hive Guard, 3 Warriors, 30 Termagants, 1 Prime, 2 Carnifexes, and 6 Rippers. Seems like a solid list, to be fair, mate. So, you know, I'll always be honest with you. Not a fan of the Tyrannofex. Don't see that doing much for you at the points cost. That would be my first one to drop out. I mean, give it a go and have fun with the list. It looks a solid list. It's a cool, but I'm not really a fan of the Tyrannofex. Just doesn't really do a lot for me. I just don't think I think there's much better units in the decks that do what it does. you know, yes, it's our most powerful long range shooting, but it's still not enough shots for its points that it costs. It's not going to do the damage that you probably need it to do. So, but give it a go, and you know, if you disagree and it really works for you, then great, and definitely let me know. James says, when am I going to San Diego? Well, again, thank you very much for your donation. That is still sitting in the pot at the moment, so we will see. We'll see. I'd love to. I'll be. So we obviously got the Northwest Open, and I'll talk a little bit of tournaments probably in a second. But I mean, we've got Northwest Open that's coming up end of July. Will be the next time that I'll sit down with Martin and we'll talk about ventures and events, and we'll see we'll see what happens. Of course I would absolutely love to, but we'll have to see. Right, must go off to bed. Catch up at the London GT. Yeah, see you later, Ian. Thanks for dropping by. He's great ripping off tanks. He can be, but to be honest with you, getting the tanks faces with stuff with rending with monstrous rending claws is probably going to do the job just as well. Will you kill a tank with one in one volley? Probably unlikely. You'd have to roll pretty hot for it to happen. So yeah, you might, but the chances are it's probably going to take one Tyrannofex 2 turns to kill most tanks. And if you're thinking about like a lot of those tanks, probably only cost roughly about the same points. It's look, it has the potential of doing a lot of damage, and every now and again you'll have a game where he's red hot for you, and and he's great. And if he works for you ultimately, then keep playing him, because I'm not an advocate of these people that are just maths hammering everything. A lot of the units that you pick, and this isn't just Tyranids, this is with any army. Pick the units that you like playing with, that play to your play style, and then it doesn't really matter whether they're meant to be good or not, because if they play well for you because you play around that kind of style, then keep playing them. Don't let anybody, me, nor anyone, tell you there's something better to take. If you like playing it and it's working for you, keep playing it. All power to you. Hello, Will. I'm playing triple Necron Vault. Lost tonight. Fun times. I'm playing a triple, so you're playing against it, I'm guessing. I don't think it's very good, personally. I don't think it's that strong. You need the tools to deal with it. It's probably 3 volts and the Deceiver to get them all in your face. But yes, it does quite a lot of mortal wounds. Now, to be fair, I've only played 1. I've not played the 3 volt list, but I don't think it's great. It's a gatekeeper list. You need to bring the tools to be able to deal with it. That's fact. There's no two ways about it. You need to be able to deal with it, because it's a list that's now going to be prevalent for a little while. Probably they'll hike the points on it slightly to make it impossible to run 3 of them, I would suspect, in the next chapter approved, particularly if they do well at the London GT and then at the ATC and ETC. But I don't rate the list. I think it's okay. I don't think it's spectacular. I think it has some really, really hard counters, and the hard counters just annihilate it. So anything that, because it's a lot of mortal wounds, it's got the ability to shoot a lot of your chaff away pretty quick, and obviously it's in your face and it's fairly resilient. But if you've got the toys to put it away, they put it away really, really quickly. So like triple Shadow Sword lists will just kill it in a turn, and it doesn't matter if the Vault gets first turn, because you'll just wrap those Shadow Swords and then all the Vaults, or 2 of the Vaults, are dead first turn. So yeah, it's never going to be, and I'll say this now, I'll say these, it won't win tournaments, in my opinion. I might be completely wrong. I think it has the potential of being, you know, in top 10s of big events, and will definitely hurt a lot of lists, but I don't think it's top tier at all. Let's have a look. I'm testing him for months. He always kills more points. Yeah, so George is talking about the Tranafix. So yeah, great stuff, mate. You know, keep going with it, and 100%. I don't get it, honestly. Seems very meh on paper. Yeah, and it is, Will. It's just resiliency. It's resiliency, and it has the ability to potentially dish out a lot of mortal wounds, because of the redundancy of the powers. Because two of the powers are particularly strong and can hit multiple units with lots of mortal wounds, and because the Vault can take so many powers, you're able to get them more than once. And that's really good. And because there's no way of denying them, you have got an opportunity of doing a lot of mortal wounds. So it's good. And because it has the ability of getting quite close quite quickly, it can do damage. And because again, it can target, a lot of its powers can target characters. But again, you can go after stuff that you wouldn't normally be able to. So look, it's got a lot of tricks, and with practice, it can still be definitely a list that will do damage. But it's not just meh on paper. It is meh. It's a gatekeeper list. It's a list you need to take the tools to deal with, and it's quite frightening, because it looks huge on the table and it looks quite scary. And when you think of all the things it can do, but then in reality, it doesn't do that much damage. And if you've got a list with balance in it, so you've got enough units to get around the board, take objectives, it will really struggle to win any objective game, because it's so many of the points of the army in those three models that they really don't have much else. So yeah, I mean, look, it's good. It will catch people out. Is it top tier? In my opinion, no, it's not. And it's another one of those lists where I just think people will find it out so quickly. Is London GT using a no charge on the Sky Shield rules? It's a silly rule. I don't really know, to be honest, Will. There's a massive dispute online around the whether it is ruins that they are interpreting this can't charge, or whether it's any terrain. It's a difficult one. The arguments out there, I'm not really too sure. I think if you don't have the tools to be able to shoot something off a landing pad, then you're probably not going to do that well anyway. So I think it's almost irrelevant. Some armies that are all out assault are going to get a bit caught out by it, but I think you're going to need the tools to be able to blow holes in stuff that's sitting on a landing pad. Doesn't make it that resilient. So again, it's one of them anomalies that people will use at their advantage and will catch people out. It's not game breaking. It is gamey. It is annoying. It is stupid, and it is pretty much taking the mick. But as it stands, it's if you talk to most people, it's kind of pretty legal. As far as I'm aware, the London GT is pretty much anything goes. They are pretty much trying to stay as true to the Games Workshop core rules and FAQs as possible. And I don't think, because they've got so many people going, I don't think they necessarily had that much time to react. So I've not scrolled through all the lists, but I didn't at first glance see loads of landing pads on there. So I don't know. It's an interesting one. 6 Hive Guard, double shooting, will take down any tank except super heavies, but will still cripple super heavies reliably. Yeah, I think Hive Guard are great. I love them. They're awesome unit, and they are the next tactical video is Hive Guard. So, but yeah, they're one of my favourite units. I think they're awesome. They do benefit from a table that has good terrain, and that's probably their only weakness, because particularly in the competitive meta, tournaments are not consistent on their terrain, and they're not consistent with their rules for terrain. So you are kind of at the mercy of the table, because if you play on a table where the terrain is not sufficient, then you'll get blown off like literally without even moving. So and that's the problem with them, because they're not really a resilient unit. They're not a resilient unit, so they are susceptible for being dealt with pretty quickly. And I found that. So I had a unit of 4 of them in Vegas, and they were great. They were a solid unit, but the problem I had was, any table that I couldn't hide them, they were just dead first turn. And that's the problem. And particularly if you run like big units of them, you run a unit of 6 of them, it's quite hard to hide them. That's the problem. And I think, so, and I've had this conversation a little bit with Will in the past. So Vic ran an awesome list the beginning part of this year and part of last year, which was predominantly based around Hive Guard and Biovores, and I still think on paper it's a really, really strong list now. The problem with it is it's so dependent on those units that hide and don't need line of sight. You are completely at the mercy of the table, and if you roll on a table with no terrain, you just literally, you might as well shake hands and meet him in the bar, because your army's dead without even going. And that's the problem with them. They need to be able to rely on some good line of sight blocking terrain, which should be on every table, but it isn't always. And when you depend on that, you can find yourself in trouble. See you later, Julian. No problem. Always here for you, my friend. 18 Hive Guard on Sky Shield landing pad with a Malifrope in the centre. Can't charge it, but boy, does it kick out fire. It will do, absolutely. It's still, to be fair though, even with the Malifrope and the Sky Shield landing pad, it's still going to die, to a lot of things. For instance, Dark Reapers are still a thing. People are still going to be taking a unit or a couple of units to Dark Reapers. They're just going to mush them like they're not even there. And there's enough other things as well that with Weight of Fire are still going to absolutely destroy those Hive Guard very, very quickly. And the problem is, again, your deployment is dependent. So the 36 inches is really good. You're reaching out to past the middle of the board and starting to do some range. But against a good player, you can mitigate that by deploying out of that danger range from them, and then potentially you've got range to do with them. I mean, for instance, like a good Tau army will dispatch those guys without too much trouble. You'll give your guys the buffs. They've got the range to outrange them. And they're just gonna rip them off there. Even with the -1, with Tau being a BS4, you still probably going to find that there's not many Hive Guard at the end of the first turn. That's a lot of your points gone. So I think it's a clever little list, but it's a bit of a one-trick pony, and I don't see it necessarily being that powerful. But it's cool. It's cool. X-Crine or a unit of 4 Hive Guard. We have good terrain. Hive Guard every single time. The X-Crine's it's not that great. The problem is the X-Crine's just in a real niche strength and shots. If the X-Crine was strength 8, the X-Crine would be the one you go for every single time, because it's extra resilient for being T8, having that free up save, having the wounds, and being able to dish out lots of shots. It is awesome. The problem with the X-Crine is its gun being strength 7 means that majority of things that you want to shoot the X-Crine at best you're wounding generally on a 4. You're very, very rarely wounding on a 3 through targets you want to target, because the X-Crine still is an expensive unit that you want to be going after high value targets. Now, yes, okay, elite infantry, so things like Custodes, Terminators, as if anyone's taken Terminators, but Obliterators, so on. So there are targets that they will do very well against, but that is quite a small group of units. Whereas the Hive Guard being strength 8 means that majority of the time they're wounding on 3s, and against the kind of the real solid stuff, they're wounding on 4s, which makes them much more of a threat. Now, I much prefer the 2 damage over the D3, but the strength 8 from the Hive Guard is the thing that separates them and makes them the better bet. On top of that, being able to hide them and still shoot them is yet another thing that works. And if you say you've got good terrain, for me it's the Hive Guard every single time. That would be my call. At the beginning, I tested the Exocrines heavily. They were kind of my go-to unit for a long time, and they just come really unstuck against a lot of the targets you really feel they should be dishing the damage against. So, don't write them off. They're still a good unit, but I think the Hive Guard are your better bet. So Will's got a rule here. Now, I can put me on spot with rules. Not my strength, but not off the bat anyway. Here's an odd rule. There's nothing saying you can't put a fortification on a fortification. So a Sky Shield gives you an invuln. Aegis Defense gives you cover. You can legally put an Aegis on top of the Sky Shield. Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, I suppose so. I don't see why not, but yeah. Yeah, the bases are deceptively large. They are. My opponent has Guilliman and 2 repulsors. It's 50% of his army. If I can handle them with my shooting, I'll win. Yeah, I mean, the repulsors are not that amazing. So I used a repulsor. I have a repulsor in my marine army, and I've run it with Guilliman. I've run it without. It's a lot of annoying firepower that can do damage. If he's got the best setup, it's normally your twin las cannon, and then it's lots of the Gatling, so it's the big Gatling cannon, the little Gatling cannon, and then lots of missiles. And the missiles are not, the ones that are good are not great because they're more for fly targets. The ones that aren't very good are not high strength, don't do much damage. They're not amazing, the repulsors. They're an irritation, and it does feel like they have a shooting phase all of their own. They have that many guns, but their guns are not that amazing. They're not that incredible. So yeah, I wouldn't be overly concerned about facing 2 of those. You can definitely shoot them down relatively quickly, and you can get them on their lower tiers. Now, having Guilliman obviously mitigates that a little bit, but they're definitely nothing to worry about. I definitely wouldn't be too concerned about that by the sounds of things. I wouldn't underestimate it, but I definitely wouldn't get worried about it. I always build my lists from Humble Termagant up, and they are the spine of my of the Tyranid army. Yeah, I mean, the new hotness for Tyranids is just basically spamming as many Termagants as you can. It's not particularly glamorous, but point for point, you just basically fill the whole board with Termagants. Ideally, if you can run Forge World, you've got some Malanthropes in there to make sure that -1 to hit. Maybe some Biovores for more congestion, for Spore Mines at the back, and that's pretty much probably on paper the most effective Tyranid army that's around, which is sad in a way. And it sounds silly, but actually when you do the math and you just completely block the whole board with Termagants and say deal with it, when they're all -1 to hit, and you use all the stratagems for them, so you can actually make them when you've got a unit of 30, you can actually make them, even with flesh borers, you can make them quite good at shooting. They come in combat, you can make them all explode. There's lots of little tricks to using them effectively. And yeah, there's a lot to the Humble Termagant. Definitely not one to underestimate. I mean, I think I've only got, and I say only, but I think I've only got 150 Termagants, which actually for some of the lists that I'm seeing is not even enough, which is quite frightening, But yeah, and it was also sad. I mean, I really would like to run mass Termagants with Tervagans. But actually, again, when you run the maths, there's no point, because actually you might as well just get more Termagants for the points of the Tervagan, because it just doesn't work out, which is kind of a shame. The Tervigon's just a little bit expensive. It needs to be a little bit cheaper, but still, I mean, in a fun game, I think a sea of termagants with some big birthers just birthing out termagants is a really cool way of playing, and it's still strong. It's just if you're really, really optimizing, it's probably best to spend all those points on the tervigon, buy yourself more termagants. What have we got? Are you going to bring your top game and get your name on the STO Shield this November? Who knows? Who knows? It's a long time away. I'll always bring my top game. There's no doubt about that. What that looks like by the time we get to then, who knows? But yeah, I mean, 2018 has been a good year. My track record on the table is pretty good. I've not really lost many games in either practice or in competitive play this year. I think 2017 for me, even though it was very successful, still got some good finishes and did okay. I was very much finding my feet around how this system worked, and to get kind of my idea around how I wanted to kind of play, what it looked like, where I was going to kind of fit in, how I was going to concentrate on the system. It took me a little while, a little bit in kind of almost denial of the edition, because I did want it to be better. I wanted more from it than we've got still, and it's getting better, but I wanted more from it. I wanted more balance, I wanted more variety, and I wanted the old, you know, the silly stuff that, like, you know, that Will was mentioning, for instance, there, you know, like a Sky Shield landing pad with something else on top. These silly things that as gamers and as competitive gamers, they're there to be broken, but the system should be much more robust and not allow those things to be put in place to break them. So, you know, a lot of people will say blame the players, and the players do have a lot to, you know, a lot to hold their hands up to, but ultimately it's the game itself. If the game doesn't give you the opportunity to find those loopholes, to find those cheeky things, to find those, you know, those exploits, then you can't do it in the first place. So I hoped for a bit more balance than I got, and it's taken me a while to adjust to that. I was on a bit of a downer the mid to late point of the year. I started to find my kind of mojo a little bit around the Scottish Takeover 2, with my my Nurgle list. Started to kind of feel it a little bit, started to get it a little bit back, started to see kind of what I wanted to do, and it's kind of gone on from there. Obviously, very successful campaign at the LVO, and I've had a few tournaments since, which again been good finishes, and as I said, in practice things have been going well. So I'm on the right direction. I suppose long answer to your question, Will, but I'm going in the right direction. I've got quite a lot booked in between now and then. I'm practicing probably more now than I have for a good couple of years, so I will bring my A game, that's for sure. What that looks like, hopefully it'll be good form by the time we get there. We'll see what happens. What we got here? Owen, hello mate. Playing tomorrow against the Death Guard. Sorry, not the Death Guard. The new Death Watch. What would you suggest for building against them? Playing 1,000 points game. Play little stuff. So don't play into their hands. So they're quite an elite army. So you want to play the numbers. So, you know, don't. Mortal wounds are very good again. So definitely play some smite stuff in there. So you'd probably want to be looking at, you know, at least one flyer in there, because he'll be an irritation. He'll give some smites out. He'll be able to deal with them in combat. And I think Gene Stealers would be a good shout. 1,000 points is always an odd one, but try and get bodies on the board. You know, and kind of get in his face. Don't give him just a few targets, because he does have the ability to dispatch stuff quite effectively, even though he doesn't do multiple damage very well. So the Deathwatch kind of rely on reliable small arms fire that is reliable because it can wound anything, it hits very effectively, and there's lots of it. What it doesn't do very well is they don't have very much stuff that hits you and then does high damage. So yeah, I mean, again, look, Hive Guard would be a great one. They don't have tons of stuff that's, that doesn't need line of sight. You've got to watch out charging things like their frag cannons. Their frag cannons just do a number on you in Overwatch. But I think some Hive Guard in there. Small unit of Hive Guard, maybe 3 Hive Guard, unit of Bivors just for a bit of long range, going out and doing some mortal wounds to him, a Flyrant, and then Termagants, or maybe some Gene Stealers will probably be not bad shout. 1,000 points is always an odd one. I've never really built armies enough at 1,000 points to be able to give you a really good kind of lean on it, but I'm definitely looking at, you want to be outnumbering him. And you want to be able to do mortal wounds. They don't have great defense against mortal wounds, so there you go. You want to have at least a Hive Tyrant in there, because he has got a stratagem. He'll start picking off characters that are Synapse creatures, so you want at least a big creature that's fairly resilient. But good luck. Give them a go. I mean, I've not played the new Deathwatch myself, so you'll learn just as much as anybody else by playing them. But at 1,000 points, I don't think he's going to get much in a 1,000-point list. So you'll probably outnumber him significantly. So go wreck face. Go wreck face. What have we got? Look. Yeah, Scorch Bugger, really funny, really funny. George is saying, I love the combo with 30 Termagants and a Prime, 180 shots with the stratagems. Tasty. -1 to hit next to the Malanthrope, so it's -2. Yeah, but it's still not points if you don't get enough Termagants out of it to really make it that great, really. Okay. Walking forward with Death Leaper, who's -3 to hit. Yeah. 90 gaunts, -1. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Tervigan helps accuracy through reroll ones. Yeah, that is a good shout, James. So obviously, yeah, the Tervigan will make your gaunt slightly better in that way. But again, they're not really there to do a lot of damage. They're there much more to just congest the board. But it's definitely going to help. Venom cannons, Exocrines, Sexcrines, Rape Elites, and Hive Guard take out most things. Yeah, they do. They do very well against elites. It's quite a small category, and you're spending quite a lot of points to deal with those elites. And quite often those elites have got good invuln saves, which can also shrug off that -2. I need to get more games in and try it. Haruspex or Demacaron worth using? No, neither. So Haruspex is ridiculously overpointed, doesn't really do anything, to be honest. It's great in combat, it won't ever really get there. It's not very good. It's an amazing model, and use it and it's fun and it's cool. So look, I don't want to put anybody off any model or unit they love using. I watched a game on the Dark Artisan, where Phil, who is a good, he's a big Tyranid fan, and he plays some quite interesting lists. He was playing against the new Deathwatch in their latest video. He had 2 Maliceptors, And Christ, Maleceptor is such a useless unit. But you know, we ran 2 of them, and the Maleceptor is such a cool unit, such a cool unit. It looks so epic. And a model I don't even own. I don't even own that kit, which is horrendous. In I pretty much own every Tyranid model with multiples. I don't own that kit because it's never been good since they launched it. But that's sad because the model is so cool. And I suppose so. The Dimmacharon, when you maths hammer it out against the Trigon Prime, there's no reason to ever take the Dimmacharon. Trigon Prime does the same damage, if not more. It's just better, and it's better delivery system. It's just you just don't take the Dimmacharon apart from it. It's just such a cool model again. So look, both of those units are really cool. You want to run them probably in Kraken to get them as quickly as damn possible into your enemy's face, and so if they get tied up, they can come out and charge something that they want to charge. But they're not good. They just aren't good. But look, use them because they're cool. We've got Dimmer's strength 10, yeah, but it's not difficult to get strength 10 really. Hits on 2s, looks okay on paper. He's alright, he's not great. Yeah, Will's pretty much saying the same thing as what I've just said. I love, yes, Old One Eye is really good. Old One Eye is great because he's got the character rule. He does serious amounts of damage. I think someone was mapping it out, and he actually does better than the Swarm Lord in combat, which is crazy. So yeah, there's definitely a place for Old One Eye if you want a real kind of combat monster. That's a really kind of cool, fluffy unit that's going to go in and do some serious damage. I think you know the Old One Eye is a better option than most of the other kind of combat Tyranid big monsters. Definitely go with that. Stone Crusher, not really. No. Again, really cool model. Rules aren't amazing. And then we're saying 3 units of Carnifexes, all with venom cannons and devourers. I said that. It's on my video, Will. So either you watched that or you listened to me when I told it to you all those months ago. But yes, that's how I love to play them. I've had a lot of success in practice games playing Carnifexes like that, and it's great to have Old One Eye behind because then you can go all out shooting. When you get close, then Old One Eye just plows in. They can all hit as well during the mortal wounds, and then Old One Eye just cuts things to pieces. So yeah, that's in my opinion that's the way to build them. They're really difficult to deal with because the -1 +1 to hit. But if you haven't already, watch my video on Carnifex tactics because it says it all in there. And I might have happened to have released that just even before the FAQ, but I might have already had an idea what was going on. So it's very current and very still right. So watch that video if you want to kind of Carnifex tactics. It's pretty much tells you what you need to know. Yeah, Will's basically saying he listened to some dodgy Southern guy. So yeah, don't know who he is, but sounds like he might know what he's talking about. But yeah, so I suppose I've pretty much spent the whole show just answering questions, which is really cool, and I have no problem with that. I don't really have kind of a plan for this evening. I just thought I'd just kind of just say hello really because I haven't been sort of around that much, particularly for this show, but I haven't been around that much just due to kind of commitments, and I wanted to kind of say hello, let you know what's kind of going on. So hopefully you follow me on Instagram. If you don't, then follow me on Instagram because I'm pretty much posting on there every day, so you get pictures of the battle reports that are to come, so you get kind of sneak previews there. And you get kind of a lot of news and work in progress. So I'm kind of what's currently going on at the moment is I'm working on my Tau London GT list. I've now practiced it. I love it. It's great. whether it's good enough to win it. Actually, yes, it is good enough to win it. Whether I'm good enough to win it is a different matter altogether. But it's an incredible list. It's extremely powerful. It hits like an absolute brick. I don't think anyone can survive if they aren't incredibly clever and play out of their skin. If I get first turn, that's probably the weakness of the army, is it can do okay with turn 2. It's still capable of doing well, but if it gets turn 1, it's just off the scale ridiculousness. It's so brutal. And you know, the list out there, so if you want to see it, you can kind of scroll down the thousands and thousands of pages on the Google document, and you can have a look at the list, and you can try and work out what I'm trying to do there. I'm not going to go into details of the kind of the battle plan and the tactics behind it. For those savvy of you, you'll be able to kind of work it out by looking at it. There's lots of combos, there's loads of synergy, there's loads of tricks in there, but I don't want to give away all my game plans, not until after the event, and then I'll talk to you guys in detail about kind of what I tried to do. Whether it worked or not is a different matter, but I'll talk to you about the game plan, and of course I'll give you a kind of blow-by-blow account of the tournament. So I've been working on that because there's a few models that I need to kind of finish off. There's a few models, the vanity in me, I've got a lot of third-party models that I use my Tau army, which I love to bits. But obviously, potentially, if I go on the GW live stream, which I have been fortunate enough to be on quite a few times, you have to have all GW models. So I did buy a few of my character models. So I've got, it's easy rather than me show you grey models. So I bought the Fireblade, which you could convert one, but I got lazy, and I bought Dark Strider. And I bought Long Strike. So there we go. So very boring, but I didn't have those characters before. I was using other models, so I bought them. So I've been painting them up, and been painting up a few other bits and pieces to make the army look as good as possible. So that's been kind of what's been on my desk recently. I'm looking forward to actually just getting that finished. I'm not kind of going to town on that being my best work. I think that it will look really nice, but it's not my best. What I am really excited to do is get the Thousand Suns back on the table again. I've done a few models, which hopefully again you've seen on my Instagram, but I'm loving the Thousand Suns. And actually, the scary thing is I kind of needed my hobby mojo back, so I picked them up when it was not the greatest army, unless you played all goats and a few support characters. It's changed quite dramatically. They're actually, in the way I want to play them, they're still nowhere near top tier, because I want to play Rubric Marines, and even though they're better, they're still not efficient. They're too expensive. They don't do enough damage. They're not amazing, but I love them, and I want to play a proper Thousand Suns army. So I am going to be playing a big blob of 20-man rubrics, and then doing a few shenanigans with them. They're quite powerful. They can do work, but that's what I'm going to do. So I've kind of got a list, but my list actually is starting to look so much better now. I can smite the living daylights out of things, and I've tweaked it a little bit to really utilize that ability to make sure that I can really kind of put the hurt on with the smites, and then utilize all the other psychic powers that Thousand Suns have got. So now the fact that I feel they're even actually quite playable is spurring me away even more to get my Thousand Suns army kind of really going and kind of on the table. So that's kind of the hobby plans. And then yeah, so tournament wise, as far as kind of what I've got planned, is I've got quite a lot actually. So I've got the London GT, which is the kind of first up, which is next weekend. I've got I'm going to the Isle of Man to play in the I can't remember what it's called now. It's terrible, but there's a good buddy of mine has basically organised the an Isle of Man tournament. It's kind of the first. He's done lots of them within kind of the community, but now it's kind of actually made it a proper 2-day event. So that's going to be great. Really looking forward to that. A lot of my friends are over there, so it's cool going over with Martin. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. So I've got that. Then I've got the Northwest Open, which is not too long after them, which obviously I won't be playing in, but really excited to see everybody there again. Then I've got I'm going to the first Hellstorm event, which is a 1-dayer run by Mikey from Hellstorm Wargaming. So yes, I'm supporting him with that. I think it's a sellout now, which is great for his first 1-dayer. So I'm going to play in that. Then there's a tickets going on sale for a big element tournament, which is will be another big one. Looking at about, I think it's going to be another 100-man event, which is going to be crazy. So I might try and pick up tickets for that. And then trying to think, I'm sure there's another event as well. And then latter part of the year, I'm really excited to be going back to the Scottish Takeover, which should be great, really good. And obviously then we're moving towards the big one, which will be the LVO again. So got quite a lot of tournaments planned between now and beginning part of next year. So it's exciting from a tournament point of view, really good, and fingers crossed I might even get a few more in there as well. So definitely picking up the pace. We had quite a slow year of it last year, which was very intentional, and I'm picking it up a little bit this year. So that's kind of that. As far as the channels, we've spoken about it quite a bit already, but a lot of work's going into Twisted Dice at the moment. So if you're kind of watching this and you don't follow Twisted Dice, then go over and put a sub on there. We should pretty much have a battle report every week for you. So as I said, the next one is quite a fun game. My Tau versus Fabius's Necrons tomorrow. So that will go up, his Golden Boys. So that's a really fun battle report. Very close. ITC missions, goes to the wire. So one to watch there, definitely. Then next week there is what's next week? Then next week is my Primaris Marines. So the first time you've actually seen them on one of my channels. They've been on Black Toe Studios, but they've not been on my channels before. So they will come, and they are playing Demons. So I'm playing Sean's Demons, which is another really fun game. And then the week after that, you'll get an opportunity to actually see my brutal GT list in action when I play a kind of mixed Zinch army that I kind of worked with Darren to come up with something as kind of as nasty as we could come up with, and that's a really good game as well. So we've got that, and then battle report after battle report from then on in. So loads and loads of content come in, loads of battle reports, and then I can concentrate on keeping these tactics ones out for you over here, and I'll try and pick up the pace on these live shows, so we'll kind of get some of them hopefully more consistent as well. So thank you for everybody that's kind of turned up tonight. I don't really know how many people's in the chat. There's probably some quiet ones in there, no idea, because I can't see on this screen because I'm going by my phone. So if you're watching this or you're watching it back, thanks for watching. It's great to have you here. So that's kind of that. As far as following me, make sure you do click on the sub button, click the like, helps me. You can follow me on Instagram. You can catch up with me on Facebook, and if you want to support further, just anything at all to donate on my Patreon account helps out the hobby, goes towards making sure that I can keep pushing the content on the channel. Literally all you got to do is donate $1 a month, and you can be part of supporting this channel. Other than that, I have dice, we have new limited edition t-shirts, and loads of other perks, but just coming and watching this video helps me out tons. So before I kind of head off, thank you very much. So I do read, I never know how to deal with when people donate on this chat. So Loel, thank you very much, appreciate it. $2, absolute star, mate. Thank you very much. Like, literally, it helps tons. So I've got a little pot going on now. So but yeah, so thank you. Really, really touching when anybody donates anything. It means so much. So thank you. Loads and loads of people have chatted loads while I've just been gas bagging. So I'll have a quick little flick through the comments and find out if there's any kind of questions or anything that we want to kind of talk about. And of course, if there's any other questions, I'm not in a hurry to get off. I've actually got a lay-in tomorrow morning, so I'm happy to hang around and now answer any more questions. This is pretty a laid-back show, and I'm more than happy to kind of carry on. What we got? Yeah, maybe rename it Wargaming Monthly. To be honest, I think you might be right, Will. I might rebrand it. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm ranked 35 in the ITC world ranking. Well done, Will. That's pretty cool. That's really well done, mate. Really well done. But as I have said to you, it's early days, so don't get too excited. We've only really had one major in Adepticon. There's not really been any majors this year, so don't get too excited. But you've made a great start, mate. So well done. Just keep it going. It'd be great to get a UK player in the top 10. Good night. Have to work in 6 hours. See you later, George. If you've already gone, but thank you very much for watching, mate. Will, thank you very much. You didn't need to do that. Appreciate it though. Thank you again. So kind. Remind us of your admiration of what a Jaffa cake is. Well, I can't really not, seeing that you've donated to the cause, but so we all. This is a long running joke, but there's always a dispute in the chat around what a Jaffa cake is, and it's a third world problem, clearly. So is a Jaffa cake a cake or a biscuit? That is the question. So the kind of the dispute, this is pathetic, but we have to talk about it now. You started it, Will. You started this conversation, so we need to go back into it. So where do you find a Jaffa cake in a supermarket if you're in England, or a grocery store, or I don't know. I don't even know if you have Jaffa cakes in the US. Don't even know if there's anyone from the US watching this. But anyway, a Jaffa cake is a kind of cake. So it's really where you find it. So you find a Jaffa cake on the biscuit aisle. So I believe that it is a biscuit because it is in the biscuit aisle. But yeah. So there we go. So I don't know what you think. Whether it's a cake or is the clue in the name? Don't know. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Hello, Jim. Appreciate it. No, it's a pleasure bringing you stream. Thank you for watching. Run some Gene Stealers. But I need a little direction. Okay. Cake for a biscuit. So I'm American. That's a cake or a cookie. Yeah. So a Jaffa cake. So what is a Jaffa cake? What does it look like? So Jaffa cake is like a kind of it's like a soft kind of sponge kind of cakey type thing, but it's a bit flat and a bit squashed. I don't know how you'd kind of really describe it. But where normally kind of like in a supermarket, in a grocery store, whatever, you tend to get like all the kind of cakes and sort of sponges and things like that will be like one area, normally around where your breads and stuff like that. Whereas the Jaffa cake is with more of like your longer life biscuits in like a proper cellophane or kind of boxed container that's with the biscuits. So that's kind of where the kind of the dispute comes. So it's not with the cakes. So is it a cake? There we go. Oh, this. Why are we talking about this, guys? Why are we talking about? Let's go back to talking about gene stealers. um, I'm loving. I'm loving how Jaffa Cakes have a great storied history on this channel. Yeah, and that's your fault. I'm synonymous with. I need a T-shirt saying this. Anyway, I'm sure there's something in there. There's some sort of T-shirt branding. We need to make that happen. Shock him. Another guy from the US. So Demario. Again, I'm really sorry, guys. I'm slightly dyslexic with my reading and spelling anyway, so names really throw me. So unless you're kind of Bob, James, John, Sam, Dave, Will, I'm probably going to struggle to pronounce your name, so I really do apologise. Sorry for butchering anybody's name. It's not intentional. It always feels really disrespectful, so apologies. But thanks for dropping by anyway. No clue what I'm talking about. Well, the good thing is we don't know what you're talking about. We don't know what we're talking about, so don't worry about it. We're definitely not talking. We've gone way off the wargaming slope at the moment, and we're somewhere in uncharted ground. But we're talking about a British biscuit stroke cake stroke confectionery product. So very wargaming related. But so yeah, joining us. If you're watching before, then great. Maybe you've had some useful comments around wargaming. If you're joining us now, then apologies. This stream has gone downhill rapidly from somewhere where it already probably wasn't very high. But anyway, Owen, is it okay to cover the Flyrant with harpies? What should I charge with? Right, let me just read this back again. Sorry. Is it okay to cover the Flyrants with harpies? What should I charge with the Flyrant? So harpies, I don't think harpies are too bad. I mean, they're probably a little bit 2 points heavy. But actually, I think you arm them with a couple of venom cannons, and they're actually quite a good little. I mean, they're not very cheap, but they're quite an irritating unit. They do drop quite quickly. I don't know about covering a Flyrant with them. I'm not really too sure what you mean by that. They don't really work with a Flyrant. It's the fact that they're so much quicker than a Flyrant, so they will literally tear off. And either go charging in and kind of do that and just be a bit of an irritation, or they don't really need to be anywhere because their range of their guns is pretty substantial because they've got the heavy venom cannons. So they're not necessarily a synergy unit with a Hive Tyrant really, but they look cool together. I used to run them together in previous editions, but you probably don't need to. But I like harpies, and I was toying with running lots of them. Obviously before the rule of 3 and what have you. I prefer them to the Hive Crone, even though I think the general consensus is the Crone is better. I like the Harpy, particularly with the double venom cannon. I think it's got value there, and I think 3 Harpies with double venom cannons has got some strength there. Whether point by point is the most efficient use of those points, I definitely think it has the ability to do fairly well. I'd be interested to know what other people think, but yeah, I think it's good, but it's probably not, for a cover point of view, not so sure how effective that's going to be for you because of the kind of the role that it does. And also the Hive Tyrants, really, you don't need to worry about covering them. They've got a reliable save. They're going to do their own thing. That's the great thing about the Hive Tyrant. You don't really need to look after them. They're big enough, so they're going to get shot anyway. Their beauty is in their resilience. So Will's continuing to talk about Jaffa Cakes. We're going to try and bring this back in, Will. We're going to try and bring it back. Now, I appreciate your donation, but let's bring this back to wargaming. Oh dear, still talking about that. Sounds awesome. Right, Necron list. Stop talking about bloody Jaffa Cakes. While we're off topic, in Infinity War, was I the only one who saw a drop pod assault with Gene Stealers? Yes. Yes, they were Gene Stealers, weren't they? Big time. Yeah, 100%. 100%. They were Gene Stealers. Yeah, that when I saw it, that's the immediate thing I saw as well. Just like literally, it just looked like a massive assault of Gene Stealers. I'm with you 100%. Will saying we all saw it, yeah. Oh, you meant gargoyles to cover your hive tyrant. Yes, that does work. That is good. That works really well. So I was using that. I did adapt it because I found that they weren't as useful, and quite often they can pen in the hive tyrant from making that charge, because I was using them as a mobile screen, which I think is what you're getting at. So you drop the hive tyrants in, and then you drop the screen of gargoyles in front of them. But the reality is they don't really need it. So you can use it. It can be effective. The gargoyles are great at tying things up, like tanks, just tagging tanks. I mean, they'll get obliterated because they're just flying gaunts, but they can tag things and be irritation. So I think there's definitely some value in using that. But again, the hive tyrants, what you learn quite quickly when you play hive tyrants, they don't really need anything. That's why they will have been such the powerhouse, because they're so resilient, so fast, can do a bit of everything in every combat, and because they're big, you can't hide them anyway. So they are what they are. I don't think there are some real combat beasts that will charge in and kill them, but most things can dispatch a big unit of gargoyles fairly reliably as well. So I don't know whether it works as well as I thought it did at first, but it's definitely a viable tactic. So and again, it looks very thematic. Lots of flying bugs all coming down together. So you give it a go. I have 2 squads of 15 Gene Stealers at the moment, and a Brood Lord, 4 Hive Guard, and a Swarm Lord. Not sure where to go. It's a really good start, mate. It's a really good start. Where would I go now? Where do I think? So yeah, I mean, we've been talking a lot about Hive Tyrants. So still, a Hive Tyrant would be a great introduction to that list. Swarm Lords are amazing, and the Swarm Lord still has a place and actually can be a really competitive unit. You're probably not going to use him in the smaller games, where actually there's probably, because of his high points cost being 300 points, but even with a points increase on a Flying Hive Tyrant, it's still cheap enough to play in smaller games. So a Flying Hive Tyrant is probably going to be a more reliable HQ for you to use most of the time. So potentially look at taking a Hive Tyrant, getting another Hive Tyrant in there. Other than that, I think some Gaunts would be great. I think Gaunts are such a solid unit, really. They're nice and cheap and cheerful. I'd also look at some Rippers. Get yourself some Rippers, again, pretty cheap and easy to source, either from eBay or whatever. There's generally Rippers knocking around, but they're a real good cheap troop choice to be able to deep strike in, to be able to take objective, to be able to hide. They're a cheap tax to unlock other stuff, so I think they're a great unit to get in, to kind of pad out your slots to give you more command points. So definitely look at getting some Rippers. Get yourself a bag of Rippers. That'll help you out. And if you want to stretch yourself further, maybe look at a Malanthrope. Malanthropes are a really good unit. And again, with things becoming a lot more orientated around shooting galleries, the Malanthrope comes back into his all a little bit, because things want to obliterate you right off the mark, because they're not necessarily dropping in. So the emphasis is much more on something that will shoot you straight away, and the Malanthrope will stop that damage a little bit with that -1. So he's not necessarily everyone's beginner unit, but I would recommend you invest in a Malanthrope, or make a conversion using using the Venomthrope kit combined with some other bits and pieces. There's quite a lot of cool conversions out there on some of the Tyranid Facebook pages and things, but maybe try and kit bash yourself, or find someone else that can do one for you, and get yourself a Malanthrope. I think that would be a good introduction to your army. But ultimately, what I say to anybody getting into Tyranids is they're just such an awesome army. You've got to kind of love them, and just because they're so unlike anything else, and build an army that you love, the model. So buy the stuff that you think's cool, that you want to paint, that you want to play, and don't worry too much about the rules. There's viable ways to make most things work within the Tyranid Codex, particularly if you're not playing at the highest level. So you know, that's where I go to. Find how you want to play it, what high fleet you want to play around with, and then kind of adapt your kind of skill and tactic, and then from there you can adapt and kind of go whatever way you want. But by all means, you can always email me. My email, I think, is probably in the description, or it's on my Instagram page, or it's all over the place. But it's aceface@email.com. Nice and easy, and that's email, not Gmail. But you can drop me a mail there with kind of any kind of questions, and I won't get back to you straight away, but I'll try and answer questions, and we can have a kind of chat around what kind of options you've got. So, you know, I'm more than happy to help, my friend. So just let us know. What have we got here? So we've got lots of comments now. Yeah, gargoyles are a good one to hit with deep strike, first turn assault. Yep, and a great distraction unit, 100%. Will's talking about Infinity Wars, which is cool, because how good's that film, guys? How good's that film? Wow, it's just, look, I've got a t-shirt on, look, representing. Oh, so good, blew me away. And I'm like one of these real anti people, so I'm like, when everyone says that film's amazing, I want to hate it, and when people say that film's terrible, I want to love it. That's just kind of, I don't know why it is, but I'm really anti-reviews. I like to make my own decision, and I almost want to rebel against the popular opinion, and because I want to make my own kind of feeling about it. But man alive, that film does blow you away. How they managed to nail so many key characters and seamlessly integrate them. There'll be no spoilers here, because if you haven't watched it, you should watch it with no spoilers, because it's amazing. Most people, I'm guessing, if we're all geeks in this, which we probably are, we've probably all seen it, but it is incredible. Love it. Right, again, massive tangents. What's the best way to use rippers? The best way to use rippers, there's two different clear ways to use rippers. So either you use them as, you know, as kind of hiding, so they hide them in your deployment zone so they can't get shot, and then they can take objectives in your own deployment zone kind of later on. But the majority of the times they're cheap for power levels. We're talking post FAQ, so they're cheap power levels, so you keep them in reserve, and then turn 3 drop them onto objectives, drop them in areas where they're not necessarily going to get targeted, and they're great at getting line breaker, getting other objectives, sneaking onto things, and just generally being a pain for not very many points. But ultimately, if they do nothing at all, they are a really cheap tax to get you command points, and that in itself is worth taking them. I am going to try out Tower List with Max Fire Warriors. I think that's where the power of Tower is now. Yeah, it is, Will. It is. I think the problem that you've got with it is, yeah. I suppose what I would say to you, Will, is I think you need to change your mindset around kind of how you're building lists, because I think the meta is going to change. You're thinking very much in a competitive powerhouse ETC mindset, which is right, because that's the place where we've always been. So it's around optimizing your points efficiencies, and that's great in an ETC environment where you're able to pick your matchups. But by going for something like Fire Warrior spam around this and around that, what you'll find is you get your hard counters, and your hard counters just blow you away. So what you probably want to be looking at is a list that gives you the same strength, but gives you the ability to do other things, to be able to deal with different targets, to be able to not have the same hard counters. and I think that's what excites me about the new meta. And it's not necessarily a subject for now, because we can probably talk about that a lot. And I was thinking about talking about it in this show, but I will have to go to bed at some point, and that's a long conversation. But in my mindset, I think you need to be very wary of that type of list, and it's no different from this. I'm going to bring 3 Volts. I'm going to bring 3 Shadow Swords. I'm going to bring whatever. I think the probably the strength in a rounded list now with the rule of 3 is a better approach. You still want to be utilising. So I mean, if you look at my London GT list, I've got a lot of Fire Warriors in there. I've got a lot of Fire Warriors, but I've got the ability to do lots of other things as well, lots of other tricks, so I can utilise the strength of the Fire Warrior without that being the one-trick pony, because then when someone has the counter to that one-trick pony, I lose big. So rather than that be the case, I won't lose big, and that's I think that's the journey that quite a few really good players are going to need to go on over the next few months. And I might be wrong. You know, in 2 or 3 months' time, we might be still sitting in the same place where we're just talking about points efficiencies. But I think the way the meta's going is you need to have the ability to be able to react to lots of different matchups if you're playing outside of the team environment. And for those of you who don't know the team environment you can manufacture your matchups, so you can play against your strengths, you can try and avoid your weaknesses, which means that particular builds can still be effective, because you will then try and make sure that they face the builds that suit them. In a well-rounded individual singles tournament, I'm not sure that's necessarily going to be the future for the game, and that's hopeful as well. I hope that's the case. Whether it is, we'll find out as this new meta kind of evolves and creates. And I definitely think that if it's not the case now, that's what Games Workshop want it to be, and I think that they are going to keep forcing competitive players to play that way. And I think every time we kind of kick back and try and build this stupid list, they'll kick back and try and stop it. And I think they'll probably get to a stage where it becomes quite difficult for us to do that. So I think the opportunity to start diversifying and looking at the cleverer lists, the things that have multiple different angles to come at your opponent, are going to be the successful ones and the ones that will probably last. And I think potentially some of the UK players may start to come a little bit unstuck over the next few months, where they're very used to just spamming the power unit. I'm not sure how effective that's going to be going forward, but I may be completely wrong. I don't pretend to be the best player in the world, and I don't pretend to have the best far sight, but I have a feeling. Malanthrope or Venomthrope? I do live in America. Malanthrope. So Malanthrope's a full draw at HQ one. That's the one you want. The Venomthropes are too easy to deal with, even with the -1. So you want the Malanthrope. Hope that makes sense. Hope that's what you're asking. That's the problem when you're trying to catch up on comments, because you've gone off on a massive rant. Thanks for the help. No problem. Always a pleasure. I'll invest in the Malanthrope. Good choice. What's better, Morlock, Trigon Prime? Would you stick to the Morlock because of the 1 inch deployment? I don't know actually. I suppose I think I don't know. I suppose that's. I'll be honest with you. I just don't. I'm not sure how the Morlock fits in now. It still has. I think it still has a troll factor, and particularly as what I suppose will happen now is, particularly if you want to avoid that turn 2 alpha strike, if that makes sense, beta strike if you want to call it that, Because what people will try and do to avoid that is they'll try and spread and deny you even more space. Well, the Morlock has that opportunity to then spring up wherever it wants. But how much actual disruption does that do? It doesn't do that many mortal wounds. It's a bit of a troll unit. It dies very quickly. It can, if you're running Kronos, it can generate all your stratagems and what have you for the Kronos. So it has some uses. I suppose I'm not sure with it. The Trigon Prime I still like. I still think the Trigon Prime's good. Its lack of strength means that even though it has a decent amount of attacks that do a lot of damage, quite often the targets that you really want to do work against, quite a lot of the time you're looking for fives, which can be a struggle at times. I quite often find that they feel like they should be better than they actually are. But I still like them, and I think they're in kind of that mediocre Tyranid tier where you can bring them, they'll be effective, but they won't necessarily be top tier. Now I think, again, I might be wrong, I believe that Frankie from Frontline Gaming is taking a Trigon Prime in his London GT list. So, you know, he still believes that's an effective unit, and I wouldn't really argue with that. I think it's still good. It's still quite a good way of delivering troops because you can deliver them with something that can still then do damage and do a job afterwards. I think if you're running Trigons, though, you need to make sure you've got a lot of other things in their face, because a Trigon, even with 12 wounds, is just going to go down like that with the toughness and no invuln save. It's not going to last very long if it doesn't have other threats that are also taking some of the fire away from them. And I ran a very, if you watch my old videos and you know my kind of tactic styles, so I ran a very impact heavy list, the beginning of 8th edition, that I took to No Retreat, that was Swarm Lord, 2 Trigons, one of them was a Prime, one of them was a normal Trigon, and loads of Gene Stealers, and basically, yeah, so it's impact. And what impact means, kind of long story short, is basically it's just multiple targets that you drop in and say deal with everything now or otherwise all on top of you. And it didn't do very well, really, and that was kind of, obviously that was before we had a codex. It's much better now, and there's lots of ways of making it a lot more effective, but still I think it's kind of that mediocre thing. But Morlocks, I think there's probably still a place for them. I think we're just having to adapt how we play them a little bit more from how we're playing them before the FAQ. So, you know, I don't know, both units have a place. The Morlock's probably going to get more use for you because it's so cheap. It's a bit of a troll unit. You can sling it in. It will probably have a use. It can get you things like Line Breaker. It can grab objectives late game. It's probably a more efficient unit for you. But I still think the Trigon Prime might have a place as well. What have we got here? Thinking of going to my first tournament. How competitive is the X-Crime? It's probably in the same sort of category again, and we talked about it already earlier on the stream. But it's an effective unit. The toughness 8 means that it's not necessarily easy for everyone to deal with. So it's good. It does put out a lot of DACA. It's very good at dealing with that kind of in-between elite style troop. It has its problems are its range, because it's 36, and obviously if it moves it becomes rubbish. So it needs to sit still, which means the opponent can play around it, which is one of its issues. And its also issue, as we said, is the fact that it's strength 7 rather than strength 8. So I think you can take it to a tournament and expect it to do work. It will be effective for you. It will cause damage, and it will be effective. But will it get its points back, and will it actually be a truly efficient unit? Not so sure. It's a mid-table unit. You know, you can run a couple of X-Crimes and expect to do pretty well, or one X-Crime, whatever you want to do, and it will do work for you. But you know, it's not the most efficient, most optimal way of building kind of shooting Tyranids. Your Hive Guard are a better way to go. You can't lose a homing pigeon because if it doesn't come back, you've lost a pigeon. Great. We'll stop with the humour. I think it's something like, I seem to remember like late evenings, sort of when I was down your neck of the woods, the bad jokes start to come up. I think that might be a sign that you need to go to bed, mate. Thanks for answering. No problem. Hive guard are better. Yeah, we've spoken about that. It's pretty much agreeing. Morlocks popping up within an inch of a barricade will automatically get into combat if there is an enemy unit behind it. That's a good little thing, isn't it? That's a pretty cool tactic. I like that, James. That's probably a fact. That's probably raw. I've never thought about it like that. I'm sure Will can probably chime in and tell you, but because he's I think it's better rules lawyer than I am. But that sounds to me that sounds raw. So I know barricades don't come up that often, but that's that's true. But I think, don't they? I think a Morlock can't deep strike within an inch, and I think you have to be within an inch of the barricade for you to be able to be hit in combat. So I'm not sure whether that will work because you have to be outside of an inch for the Morlock, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that's what it is. So I don't think that will probably work, but if it does, then that's cool. I'll tell you what, guys. So it is now 12 o'clock, and I'm gonna probably call it a day now. So I'll kind of give a last sort of 5-10 minutes maximum if there's any other questions, and then I am going to call it a night. But it's been a really fun show, and literally we haven't really talked about anything specifically. It's just I've chatted rubbish with you for the best part of 2 hours. So thank you. If you're watching this back, hopefully it makes sense and you can understand the kind of, because I've tried to talk about what the questions are, so hopefully it makes sense. And fingers crossed, keep your eyes out on the channel, and the next time I do a live show, you'll be able to jump in and kind of be involved in the conversation and kind of have an opportunity to chuck some questions in and let us know how, what you're feeling about the hobby at the moment. The barricade width makes it possible. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, fair enough. Couple more minutes and then we'll call it a day. Rules as written: you can be 1 inch behind the barricade. Rules of the barricade state the unit that makes contact with the barricade are considered in combat, so it is possible. Yeah, cool. You have to be about 2 millimeters to do it. So yeah, beware. Don't make wide barricades. Okay, guys, another couple of minutes, and then we'll call it a day. But again, thank you for the guys that donated. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you to all my patrons. You guys are absolute legends. Love you to bits. You are absolute bosses. And thank you everybody that has stopped by to have a chat tonight. It's great to talk to you all again. Hopefully, I'll be back really, really soon. Thanks for stopping by. Really, really appreciate it, mate. And appreciate it tons and tons. Anyway, guys, that's enough from me, enough rabble. I'm even starting to lose my voice, so there you go. Thank you so much. Have a great kind of weekend coming up, and I'll be back really, really soon with some more videos. Take care, guys. See you later. Bye for now.